Hello and welcome back to Corgi Town, USA. I am Candy. In my lap is Chuckles, our spokescorg, and it's just me and Chuckles today. Of course, we have the Corgi committee on the other side of the studio door. That is Booger, my little senior, Mortimer Barnabas, and of course, little Tito Bandito, the youngest member of the Corgi committee. If you're new here, hi, welcome. We are a pet parent lifestyle podcast. We are all about health and wellness of your dog, traveling with your pet, corgi centric, but also for all of dogdom, right? Pet parent lifestyle, grooming, training, all those things. I'm a dog trainer, so I love to talk about that, how we can enrich the lives of our pets and how we can enrich our lives with our pets. And we are bringing on a repeat guest this season. We have talked about some of the pet services that are available to us as pet parents that are oh so valuable, that give us time, give us back time to spend with our pets, and as well as just peace of mind, things that we need as responsible pet parents that make our lives a little easier, giving us back more time to spend with our beloved pets. So, if you're not new here, welcome back and thank you so much for joining. We hope you like this episode. I have been using Poodini, poop scooping service for several years now, and we are going to bring Mike, the proprietor, back on. So we will say, welcome back, Mike with Poodini.
Thanks, Candy. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you making time to come back. It's an important subject, like it's just, it happens, right?
Absolutely. And we're there to clean it up when it does.
Well, thank goodness, because I have four. I can't possibly keep up with it.
Right. But we love the Corgi Committee.
Oh, I'm glad. They're a spicy bunch and
Right.
they're
But
very
but they're a
loud.
fun bunch.
Yeah. Yeah. They love everybody. They're just aggressive about it.
Uh,
So let's talk about Mike. For anyone who's new here, if they didn't catch, I believe you were in season 2. We had you on, maybe season 1, but you were,
it's been a couple of years. It's been a little
yeah,
bit.
a little while. You were an honored guest. Please tell our listener viewer about you and how you got started. Tell us the Poodini story.
Well, I am Mike Casten, owner and founder of Poodini Pet Waste Removal. Really, this business started as kind of a side gig for me. I was looking to make some extra money on the weekends. I was working in a 9 to 5 corporate job. Absolutely hated it, and I kept joking around, saying, you know what? I think I would rather pick up dog poop than do this for one more day. And it took a while of that, but it kind of laid the foundation. And eventually, I started doing it on the weekends for some side money. And it was safe to say that I grossly underestimated the demand for a service like this. And before you knew it, my weekends were completely full. I had to hire a part time helper just to keep up with the customers that I had. And it kept growing from there. And, flash forward 8 years later, now we're a team of 17 people servicing over 600 yards a week. So not only is it my full time job, but I'm able to provide job opportunities for others, all from dog poop.
Well, you know what, though? It's an amazing story. Like, that's a really good origin story.
Well, thank
Right?
you.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love that you've been able to do this, and we're certainly grateful for you here at the Corgi Committee because we couldn't do it without you. We truly couldn't. But I want to talk about last time you were here. From what I understand, there's a whole poop scooping industry now. Like it's its own industry, and there's been a lot of growth.
There has been a ton of growth, probably since 2020 when the pandemic started and people were scrambling to start their own businesses and find ways to generate more income for the house. And so it started to pick up a lot of steam. There's actually some YouTubers and podcasters based solely on the scoop industry, and it's brought a lot more exposure. And we've seen a real boom in the last couple of years. I would say there have been thousands of new pet waste removal companies popping up all over the country and, in fact, all over the world. It's blowing up in Canada. There's a few scoopers I know in like New Zealand and Australia, England, Ireland now. And even right here in the East Valley, I want to say there's probably 30 plus companies, as opposed to when I first started, there was maybe three of us.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
it's definitely picking up some steam. It's getting more competitive, but at the same time, it's bringing exposure that a service like this exists, and it's not something that people need to be embarrassed about or feel shame. It's kind of standardizing us like any other home service business, putting us right on par with landscapers, pest control service, pool service. We're basically just a professional company that can come in and tackle some kind of a chore that people don't have the time to do, physically can't do it, things of that nature. And it's just getting known and it's getting widely accepted, which is amazing to see that transition. Because when I first started, most people had never heard of a service like this, and they either thought it was the best thing in the world, or you get the negative trolls who are like, "Why would somebody pay somebody else to pick up after their dog?" And we still get some of those, but it's dying down because there's much more awareness of
Mhm.
how beneficial a service like this can be for people.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it shouldn't surprise me that you have some negative Nancy's out there, but it does kind of because I'm like, well, do you want to pick up my dog's poop? It's not necessarily pleasant, and it's something that takes time out of a busy lifestyle that just makes sense to me.
Absolutely. And usually my answer to those people is just to kill them with kindness, educate them on why this is a good service.
Hmm.
A lot of our customers are elderly, and so it's physically tough for them to get out there. Does that mean they shouldn't have a dog? No. We have people with physical disabilities. We have just busy families. Both parents are working, kids are in sports or extracurriculars. It's easy to fall behind, and to me, it'd be worse if they neglected the yard, because then they're creating a dirty environment that the dogs are living in. They're tracking bacteria into the home.
Sure.
It's gross out there if the kids want to go play in the yard. So by hiring a company, they are actually doing the right thing and making sure that they're taking care of that.
Yeah.
So there's no shame in it. It's I guess just an old stigma of just pick it up yourself. And I get that if you're out walking your dog, yeah, don't leave a pile on the sidewalk. That's what doggy bags are for. We pick that up, we put it in the nearest trash can. But in your own yard, it's easy to let it get away from you. So why not have the convenience of hiring a company to come in and ensure that it gets cleaned up and gets cleaned up well every time?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you've touched on that. I mean, it's health and wellness, right? Like we need to keep it picked up because it's just not healthy for animals to be walking on their own feces.
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
want to keep it sanitary. So aside from picking up, we do spray a mild disinfectant that also helps kill surface bacteria, and it does help control the odor, because it is just breaking down that bacteria. And if you leave it uncollected, thinking that, oh, dog poop's fertilizer, that's a myth. It's not. Horse poop, cow poop, tortoise poop, those things can break down into fertilizer, but dog poop is riddled with bacteria and parasites that are just not healthy. There's a reason that you don't compost dog poop and turn it into fertilizer.
Mm.
So the best thing you can do is just keep a well-maintained yard, clean that up, as often as possible. We recommend a minimum of once or twice per week, and that way, you keep the dogs from treading in it, laying in it. There are those poop eater dogs. Everybody's got one.
I've got two of them, half of
Uh,
mine.
there
Mhm.
you go. See, and
Yeah.
it's just not healthy. So it's better to stay on top of it and just keep a clean and sanitary environment for the dogs and the people who live in the home.
Yeah, so absolutely. First and foremost, health and wellness, 100%. But I think also it speaks to health and wellness of the human beings because it's also not good for us to be around excrement, but also kind of gives us back peace of mind. I mean, with some of these tasks that are not necessarily fun to do, it when we don't have to do it, when we have someone that's helping us with it, then that gives us more time to actually spend quality time with our dog, with our families, get some things done. Maybe we have the busy lifestyles, like you were saying, there's so many other things to do. You don't want picking up poop to be on that list. You have someone who comes down and does it for you, right?
Absolutely. I mean, what is your time worth with your loved ones, or doing something you enjoy? And with any service business, that's how you weigh it out. Is it worth my time, or is it worth spending a little money to get that time back?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's one of those things. Like I said, there's no shame in it. You're not lazy if you hire a service. It just means, hey, maybe I'm investing in my own time.
Yeah.
I could go do this. I could be on Candy's podcast. I'd have more time for that if I
Yeah.
wasn't in the yard picking up poop.
Right. Well, and let's talk about climate too, right? Where we live in Arizona, it gets so insufferably hot in the summertime that it's hard for a lot of people to go out and do that. You talked about elderly and having some maybe handicap issues. It's hard for someone to go out and do that. But some people, I think, are just it's heat intolerant. And I hate to say the word heat intolerant, because I think everybody's heat intolerant at 120 degrees.
Right.
But I think just climate in general where you live is a really good reason to hire someone professionally.
Absolutely. I mean, rather it's the heat here. Nobody wants to get out there and scoop dog poop when it's 120. My team happily does it, but we still whine and complain about how hot it is.
As you should.
we get an early jump. We start nice and early in the morning, try and be wrapped up before the hottest part of the day. Just get out there, get it done. Just to ensure that our customers don't have to. Obviously, just being in this industry so long, I know scoopers all over the country, and as I mentioned, all over the world. And even on the opposite end of the spectrum, people that live in these cold climates, and they get snow and ice and everything else. And those people aren't going to go out there and clean up.
Mhm.
And the scoopers in those regions, they will go out there as long as it's, safe for them to be out
Sure.
in the weather conditions, clean up what they can during those cold months. I mean, obviously, if it's buried underneath snow, they're not going to see it and be able to get it, but it helps to
Who wants
maintain
to
it.
excavate?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so eventually when spring rolls around and all that snow melts, there's a treasure trove underneath it. But having done it throughout the course of the winter helps maintain it. Then they come in, they have what they call the spring rush that we don't really see here in Arizona because we don't have that thaw.
Mhm.
And they go do a bunch of big cleanups, get things in great shape for spring, summer, fall. And then once the snow starts again, they go through that cycle. But point being is that we all do what we do so that our customers don't have to be out there in the icky weather. Nobody wants to go out there and pick up dog poop when it's raining, when it's snowing, or when it's 120 degrees.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of convenience and ease that a service like this can just come in and take care of that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, yeah, I mean, 100%. I think that, considering whatever climate it is, you're leaving it to a professional, is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
You're going to hire someone, you have your own methods of doing it. If it's starting early, if it's hot, if you wait for the first thaw of spring, whatever it is, whatever that region, it's leaving something to a professional. The professionals know how to do it. You don't have to worry about it.
We've done it once or twice before.
Yes, right. You know poop well. So if I'm a new customer, let's say, and this is for anyone listening or viewing that hasn't done this, maybe they're like you said, removing the stigma. Maybe they're like, oh, I don't want to be lazy. I should pick up my own dog poop. Whatever the reasons are. What questions should someone ask if they're going to hire a poop scooper for the first time, you think?
There's actually several. I mean, for the most part, one of the things that I like to drive home, and what really stands out for us is, what do you do in terms of communication? Because obviously, as a homeowner, pet owner, you're trusting somebody to come into your yard, be around your dogs, making sure that gates are locked, and that dogs aren't getting out. So, one of the first things you want to ask is what do you do to notify us? Do you have any kind of reminders? How do we know when you're coming for service? Are you going to be consistent with the day and time? various questions like that, just in regards to the general safety of the process. Understanding the process is important, because with a business like this, it's a partnership between our company and the homeowner. If customers aren't communicating with us, um, you know, ensuring that gates are unlocked so that we can get into the yard, having the landscaping done, making sure weeds aren't overgrown so that we can't find things. And as scoopers, it's our job to kind of communicate back with those customers if there's going to be any changes. If we're running way late, I make it a point to notify customers all the time, and just be like, hey, it's Mike from Poodini. Just wanted to let you know we're running a little bit behind schedule, but we should be there within the next hour or two, so that we don't have dogs locked up inside when they don't need to be. And we don't have the potential for aggressive dogs being out when we happen to show up and walk into the yard.
Mm-hmm.
So first and foremost, I would just ask about the communication methods. What kind of customer service do you provide? Um, Obviously, when it comes down to the base service, the vast majority of the scoopers offer essentially the same service. Most of us have, a weekly, a 2 time per week. Nope, there goes my dogs chiming in. Um, we've got some construction going next door, so the dogs
Yeah.
are going to make their presence felt every so often here.
Hey, it's a dog show. We're having a spirited conversation.
Right? Everyone listening probably has dogs of their own barking, right?
Yeah. Like I heard that.
um, so what I was saying was basically we all kind of offer the same service in terms of most of the companies, do dog pick or dog poop pickup once a week. Some may offer twice a week. It's a little tougher when people are first getting started to handle 2 time per week service, but some of us that have been around a little bit longer have that. Most of us have some kind of a sanitizer deodorizer that we spray. Um, so essentially, the service itself that is provided is relatively equal, but I think each unique business has its own selling point, something that makes them stand out. A big part of what I do with Poodini is I put customer service at the top of the list. We live in a day and age where customer service seems to be going by the wayside and everything's very transactional. Um,
Unfortunately, yes.
and I like to put that personal relationship back into it. Candy, you can attest to this for me.
Mm-hmm.
You've been a customer for I don't even know how many years at this point. Um, but every time I see you, I talk to you. I want to know about your life. I want to know about the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
It's never just, oh, Candy, you haven't paid your bill. I need you to pay that, or we're stopping service. It,
I hope I've always paid my.
it, it but
It's not about the transactions. Yeah.
Yeah, everything has become so transactional and so impersonal. And, we joke around with Poodini, and I say people are part of the Poodini family, but it's not the cheese and fluff. Like, I don't want to name names because I don't want to get us in trouble, but there's an Italian restaurant that everybody knows that says, when you're here, you're family. And we all know it's just a marketing gimmick.
Yeah.
For us, that's not the case. I've always taken that to heart. I get to know all of my customers as best I can, generally have concern for them and their pets. And to me, it's just a mutual bond. And, I hope they feel the same about me and my team.
Mm-hmm.
We do get, waters and Gatorades brought out to us when we are in those extreme heats. Some people leave out Christmas presents and things like that. So I feel like there is that connection, and I have an open door policy. It doesn't matter how big we've gotten. I have a general manager that handles most of the operations, but all of my customers know that they can call me on my direct line, and I'm going to talk to them and be honest with them. And I don't sugarcoat things. It's just, we're going to be real with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and you're quick to get back too.
I try
Anytime,
really
yeah.
hard.
I mean, that's so valuable. And you're right. I mean, that's across any service, right? When running a business, especially, your proprietor, small business, it's you live and die by your last customer, right? And you're only
Absolutely.
as good as your last review. So we have all these things to strive for as entrepreneurs. And I think that, by you putting customer service first and foremost. I mean, it's so valuable. Like, I think, you're not even going to price if we're happy with service, right? And happy with service and happy with like what we're getting. Like, I don't even price things out because I'm like, no, it's good. Why am I going to mess with something that's working? Right.
Absolutely. And
Reasonable.
I feel like, going back to what we were talking about with the industry starting to boom, there's a lot of newcomers that are coming in, undercutting everybody's price.
Mm,
But to me, it feels like a money grab. Like they're just trying to get as many customers as they possibly can, make that money. But the level of service isn't there. I've had several customers that have come over, when I've quoted them and they're like, hey, you're a bit more than what we were used to paying. And I was like, give me 1 month and you'll see why.
hmm
And I get them on and they stay on for life because it's a night and day difference between a company that does things right and cares and somebody that's in it for a money grab.
Well, and
Uh,
sustainability too. Many of with new businesses, it's a lot of it trial and error. So, including with this, I mean, they say, "Oh, well, if this company is charging this, I can probably get a lot of business by charging less." But as they grow, they find out that's not sustainable. So, you don't really have that peace of mind that are they going to be around for that? How long is that going to be able to go, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's really important when researching a business, to get on Google, look at reviews, see what people are saying about them, see how long they've been around them. Not saying that new businesses can't and won't be great, but sometimes it's telling if you have a business that's been around for a decade and all of their reviews are stellar. You're like, hey, this is a company I can trust. They have a reputation on the line. Something that's a brand new startup. If you want to give them a chance and support them, fantastic. Kudos to those young entrepreneurs. But just be careful and read reviews because there are some that have been in business for 3, 6 months, a year. But if you look at the reviews, they're all awful.
hmm
There's scam artists out there in this industry, just like any other.
Yeah.
Again, with the gaining in popularity of the industry, I think a lot of people are trying to just cash in and make a quick buck. And, I don't want them giving me or my competitors a bad reputation for the industry that, gives those trolls a reason to be like, why would you pay anybody to scoop up dog poop? It's all a scam. Um, so just look for that professionalism in any company that you're considering hiring. Ask for reviews, ask your neighbors, ask on Facebook community groups. People will give you recommendations.
hmm
um, and again, that's not just for the poop scooping industry. I think that relates to literally any home service business, any small business. Find out what people are saying about them. Don't just
Especially pet centric. I mean, because we're kind of a crony crowd, right?
absolutely,
Fellow dog lovers, we ask who's doing this for you, who's doing your training, who's doing your grooming, who's doing your pooper scooping, right?
absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
word of mouth is everything in this business.
hmm
And just having that peace of mind. We all love our pets like they're our family. They're our four-legged sons and daughters.
Yeah.
So nothing but the best for them.
I
Um,
definitely gave birth to Chuckles. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we all feel like that. Everybody who's listening and reviewing here does. And so that's very valuable. And I think I will kind of footnote on this is safety. Not only health and wellness, but safety. I've never had to worry about mine with Poodini, like that somebody's going to leave a gate unlocked or that somebody's going to get out or that somebody's going to get injured or, anything like that. Um, that's also important too. I mean, to me, it's number one safety, right? Above all else.
Absolutely. I mean, it ties right in with the health and wellness. It's the safety of the pets and the safety of the home.
And a professional has a protocol.
Um, you know, yeah, we have protocols, we have background checks, we have processes in place to make sure that things are done right, even when it's one of my employees there in my place. They need to do the things the same way that I would do them.
hmm
And so there's that level of accountability that we can hold people to a certain standard, and if they don't live up to that, they're not going to be with my team for very long. My reputation is everything, and I am not putting a customer's safety or the safety of their pets at risk under any circumstance.
Yeah. Well, we love you for it.
Well, I
And
love you guys too.
you have a brand standard, right?
I
So
do.
everybody's got to follow your brand standard.
Absolutely.
Works with you.
Absolutely. We have basically a whole onboarding process that goes over our mission statement, our core values, run them all through a training program. As silly as that might sound for poop scooping, like we have a way we want it done, and we want it done that way for a reason. And that's just to ensure the safety of everyone, to make sure that things are done efficiently and effectively, and that it's handled in a professional manner. We are not the random quote unquote guys with buckets
Mhm.
just coming around, that you can just hire off Craigslist that are like, hey, I'll do it for $5. you know
Yeah.
who cleans a yard for five? I couldn't get the neighbor kid to clean my yard for $5. So
Yeah.
you got to sometimes keep in mind that you'll get what you pay for. And I personally, I prefer trusted brands, and things that the owner stands behind it. They have testimonials from you know people who have used the service, people that can vouch for them. Because, like you said, you're trusting the safety of your home and your pets in somebody else's hands, and that's not something we take lightly. That's a big responsibility for us.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about something kind of funny. Before when we had you on, you talked about some of the treasures you found, the hidden treasures. I'd love to hear about some of those again.
Well, there is no shortage of treasures that we find in this business. As most of dogs of all kinds like to get into things. Sometimes we know about
Never.
it, sometimes we don't. But we get to see what that looks like on the other end. As opposed to going in, we see it when it comes out. So it's not uncommon to find, various socks or undergarments or things like that. Obviously, food wrappers, things that they dig out of the trash.
Yep.
Um, I think one of the greatest stories, and I probably told this last time on the podcast, not 100% sure, but we found what I dubbed as magical unicorn poop. And I say this because I walked into a yard, and there was a rather large pile in the middle of the yard, quite colorful, rainbow colored, and sparkly. And I looked at it, and I had to do a double take because I had never seen anything like this before in my life. And I'm like, what is going on here? Obviously, if we see anything out of the ordinary, first thing we're going to do is contact a customer. So I immediately snapped a picture of it, text it to the customer, like, hey, just wanted to let you know I found this. Not sure what your dog got into, but this is the first time I've seen magical unicorn poop, and I want to make sure your dog's okay. Well, it turns out their dog got into one of their kids' school backpacks and ate believe it was a uh, box of 64 different colored crayons and a bottle of glitter.
Oh my goodness.
So it combined to make a rainbow, glittery, magical unicorn dog poop.
That was their dog's art.
It was absolutely dog's art. It was the most artistic poo I have ever had the pleasure of collecting.
That's fun. When did you adopt a baby unicorn? Oh, that's our dog. He just got into glitter and crayons.
Right. Also, it's not uncommon for us, believe it or not, to find money in dog poop. I've seen various bits of, dollar bills, $10 bills, $20 bills, and
Oh
um,
no.
yeah,
Expensive poop.
it's expensive poop, and it's a really crappy way to tip your pooper scooper.
Here's your tip. Dig it out first.
Right. So yeah, I mean, you see how much mischief and mayhem dogs get into, but it's kind of like being a detective because we see the crime scene and the clues, and we have to piece together the story of what happened.
Oh Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. We have the dog birthday parties, and when we get the special dog bakery cakes, they always have lots of fun colors, right? Because they make these really
Mhm.
like interesting cakes. But there is always different colored poops the next day, like if it's green or red or whatever. And sometimes I have to stop and go, "What the? Oh, that's right. We were at a birthday party. That's from the pup cake."
Right?
Yeah.
All those colorful dyes in the frosting. Safe
Yeah.
for your dog, but make for interesting exit strategy.
New art, new butt art, I guess.
Right?
I remember one time, when I had my dearly departed hammer, I was visiting my dad, and my brother had a prayer book, and we had gone to dinner or something, and Hammer was not a mischievous corgi, but for whatever reason, something really drew him to my brother's book bag, and he pulled out his prayer book, and he ate parts of his prayer
Oh,
book.
geez.
And I was like, okay, I don't know if we should go to church or like, I'm not sure. I don't think this is a good thing to do. But we had literal holy poop for a couple of days because there were scriptures.
Oh man. Oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was quite the memory.
I can only imagine. Yeah, it's amazing the different things that we find. Like I said, it's from money to magical colored sparkly poo to the undergarments to things even that we know are not healthy, and we have to notify. Like we had a dog that was pooping rocks, believe it or not,
Oh
and
no.
it turns out they were doing some like landscaping work and happened to put rock in his favorite digging spot. And in
Oh,
protest, this dog was eating the rock. And so we tipped the customer off to that, like, hey, there's a lot of rocks in his poo. This can't be good for him. So they ended up taking him to the vet to make sure everything was okay. And thankfully, dog stomachs are pretty resilient. And he was, passing those stones. And, they had to get some training involved to train him not to eat the rock anymore.
sure.
So some of those things we find are a little bit scary, but I'm glad we can tip people off to it who may not know, because if you're not out there cleaning it up, you don't always see what's going on,
Yeah.
with their feces. And um, you know it, we may be poop scoopers, but we get to be like dog poop paramedics, if you will, because we're the first ones to notice something. I'm not going to diagnose it. I'm not a vet. I'm not a vet tech, but I'm
Sure.
sure going to let you know if there's something wrong and
Something
out
to
of the
look
ordinary.
into. Yeah.
Like you might want to keep an eye on them. You might want to take them to the vet. I can't say what you want to do, but if it were my dog, I would want to know this is happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And rocks can be really problematic. That's I ran into that with Mortimer because he's one of my poop eaters, and
Mhm.
had gotten a hold of some before I could pick it up, and he had some rocks in there, and we it was a wait and see game because it was far down enough. It was dangerous to operate. Luckily, they passed. But and he knows leave it, right? He knows he's not supposed to, but he's quite the opportunist. So he's going to use every opportunity to just get those little treasures of his own. But I had a girl corgi that we had to go in and they had to scope them out because they couldn't pass down.
Ooh.
So that kind of stuff is problematic. So I'm glad that you're out there looking for it. But yeah, so one last thing, I'm going to let you get back to your evening. Thank you so much for coming and talking poop and poop scooping with me. But as a final thought,
Hey,
um,
I don't know if I can use this word on your podcast, but I'm always happy to talk shit.
yes, thank you. We need it. It's necessary. But I'd love to know, like, how is if we're hiring a pooper scooper, you've kind of told us what questions we should ask if we're going to hire one. What advice would you have for us to be better customers, like, so that we can support our poop scoopers? What makes your guys' job easier?
Uh, just be attentive and mindful to the fact that you have a service coming. Communicate with us. Any instances, say you're not going to be home, you're not able to unlock the gate. Just let us know ahead of time so that we don't show up, the gate's locked, we're trying to call. Be mindful of the fact that you have an appointment on your service day. Make sure that the scooper has access to the yard, gates unlocked. If your dogs aren't friendly or there's some kind of an issue with them being out, let's make sure that we have them in. Let's ensure the safety of a technician that's going to be in the yard. And then other than that, it's just general upkeep and maintenance. Try to keep your weeds and grass from getting way overgrown. Don't leave trash scattered all over the yard. Those are just things that make a scooper's job more difficult, and it's harder for us to ensure that we're getting every pile. If we can't see it, we can't scoop it. And we do our best to sift through and try and get everything. But if the yard is a complete disaster zone outside of our wheelhouse, there's only so much we can do. And that's something that we see very common with the weeds and the overgrown grass. Just maintain that. If you're hiring a poop scoop service, if you're not going to maintain it yourself, hire a landscaper. Like let's just keep the whole yard well maintained. And quite frankly, poop scoopers and landscapers work in symbiosis. Most of the landscapers won't come in and do their thing unless the dog poop's picked up. So, we can come in and clean it up. They can do the landscaping. And then once that landscaping's clean, we're going to get that yard absolutely pristine. And other than that, just like I said, communication is key. Have that relationship. Just like I don't want it to be a transactional service to the customer. Don't make it a transactional service with us. I mean, some people, I get it. You just want to pay and have the dog poop disappear, and you never want to hear or see from me, which is totally fine. But if there is some communication necessary, just communicate. I will answer my phone. I will respond to text messages, emails. I just want to be in the loop.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for those tips. We appreciate that very much. And I'm going to drop in the description box Poodini's website. So if you want to get a quote from Mike with Poodini and you live local to the East Valley of near Phoenix in Arizona. Otherwise, we hope that this gave you a lot of information if you're considering hiring poop scooper service and advice on how to be a great customer for your pooper scoopers. But for those listening, Mike, please tell everyone how they can get a hold of you.
The easiest way is just visit us at poodini.com. That's POODINI.com. We've got a button right on there where you can request a free quote. It just has a brief questionnaire that'll ask you the minimum amount of details that I need to know to provide you with an accurate quote and availability. For that matter, the site itself is pretty informative. It has all of our pricing listed, tells quite a bit about our company and some of the things that we do outside of the realm of the business, just some of our support for like the local rescues and things like that. And there's even an About Us section that has a picture of all of our team members, so you can see all the wonderful faces that might pop in and smile while we're cleaning up dog poop and giving your dog belly rubs.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for that. And I hope that you have a good rest of your evening, Mike.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Candy. Always a pleasure to be here, and love chatting with you. So hopefully we'll do it again sometime soon, maybe not another 2 years from now.
Yes, I'll do better at keeping up with that. Thank you so much, Mike.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Well, I hope this gave you some good information. If you're not already hiring a pooper scooper, I highly recommend it. It definitely gives you a lot of peace of mind. Again, I don't have to worry as much, especially since I have 2 poop eaters. I have to pick up a lot of stuff right away, but I have 4 dogs. I can't always keep up with it between the podcast and doing dog training and all the other work I do. I definitely appreciate their help, and they do a great job of keeping my yard nice and clean. So please follow Poodini. It's POODINI.com, Poodini.com. I will drop the link down in the description box. Otherwise, if you live in another region, I think Mike gave us some great advice on what questions to ask to hire one. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please like and subscribe if you did. We're here for you every week. Candy, Chuckles, the rest of the Corgi committee, Booger, Mortimer, and Tito. We will see you next week.